So in this video, I actually want to talk about a different approach to get the frequency distribution for the categorical data. So that method is called the pivot table method. So in order to create the pivot table, and you need to first to click the insert. So after you click the insert, you will notice on the left hand side called a pivot table. So when you are using pivot table, I want to emphasize that you have to make sure in your data set there is no empty column. So there is no empty column. So in this data set, you can see we actually have an empty column. So therefore, we actually should delete my empty column. So let's delete the column C first. So now we have that this data set have no empty column. Now we can start to use the pivot table method. So first, click like I said, click the insert tab on your Excel. Click the insert tab on the top. And then on the left hand side, you will be able to see there is an icon called the pivot table. Again, it's under the insert tab. And then you click the pivot table. So the only thing we need to do is we want to select the data range. So usually what I want to do is I want to place my result in the new worksheet. So therefore on the button, they ask you where you want to place your pivot table. Choose the new worksheet. And then on the top, now we let the computer know where is my data set. So although we only want to create a frequency distribution for rating, I recommend you to select the whole data set. And I will explain why. So let's do it together. So after you go to select the table, and so on the there is the icon, look like an arrow point up, and so you clicked it. And then what you need to do is just go ahead select. So when you are using the pivot table method, it is very, very, very important you are including labels. Okay, so we're including my labels from A1 to C650. So we have a lot of data. So let me move down. And then we click this little icon. So now we select data from A1 to C650, and then we place this new pivot table in the new page, new worksheet. So you will notice on the bottom here, we'll create a new worksheet, and then we can click OK. So now you will be able to see this new worksheet. New worksheet. So in this new worksheet, and obviously on the right hand side, you will be able to see this is called a pivot table. So this is where we're going to work on. And so we're using this worksheet. So if you try to remember in our original data, if I go back, so look at our frequency distribution. Let me go back. So this is the one we use COUNTIF to create it. And then you can see the first column is the different unique classes, and the second column is my frequencies. So we try to create this table as well using the pivot table method. So one thing you need to do is, okay, we have three options here because we select the three variables in the data set: rating, hotel brand, and rating. A rate. So if you don't see the label here, instead you see the observation. That means when you originally select the data, you didn't include the label. So there is a very important thing you need to remember. If you are using this method, you have to include the labels. So now we are working on rating to create the frequency distribution for rating. What we're gonna do is first move your mouse to rating. Left click the rating and hold it and drag it down to rows. So as you did it, and you can notice that on my spreadsheet, on the left-hand side spreadsheet, I instantly creating the unique observation from my reading column, right? So average, etc. And then the only thing we're missing on is my frequency. So in order to get frequency, what you need to do is choose reading again, hold it, and drag it down to the values. So now you can see you instantly adding the second column called the count of readings. So this is almost the same as we are using a COUNTIF. So the only difference is now, since we are using this method, they are alphabetical order my reading levels. So that's not what we want. Since we know we want to order based on the ordinal skills, so from the worst to the best, right? So what you need to do is first select the first level, average, and then start to type the level you want. So the first level is the worst level, so you type T. So once you type T, you instantly see that Excel convert to terrible. That's great. So then you don't need to type the whole word. So once they change it to terrible and then you push enter, so you can see instantly the frequency also change. So you will do the same thing for average and then changing to poor, just type P and then instantly change the word compute automatically by the computer, and then you push enter. So the next one is average, and then the next one will be very good. You type V, and then instantly the computer will change into very good, and then you push enter. So the last one is automatically update to the last class we have. Excellent. So now this table is exactly the same one we did use a count if. And so this method is much faster. And so usually I like using this. And another a fancy reason we're using this is because we actually will be able to see who are belonging to each classes. So for instance, we have 41 under the table, and we want to know who are in this 41. So what you need to do if you're using pivot table method, you actually will be able to see who are belonging to this 41. So first select 41, left double clicked 41. So the computer will instantly create a new sheet called work 2, and you will notice that on this new worksheet, everything listed here are considered being rated as terrible. But beside the rating, we also will be able to see hotel brand rate. So this is a really good way to managing your data. So if you want to see who are belonging poor, and you can double click the 62, and then you'll be able to see who are belong to that. So a lot of human resource management manager are using the pivot table to manage their staff. So maybe their rating behind here is based on their titles, and then maybe here is and then you will be say, oh, how many of them are like how many of them are vice president, president, associate, analyst, and then you want to say, okay, in the original data set, it may be involving their gender, their salary. So if you creating this pivot table, they give you the summary about the titles, but by clicking this, so for instance, the first row will be a vice president. You click this the frequency, you actually will be able to see, okay, for all the vice president, what's their salary, gender, etc. So this is a really good way to manage your data. So another reason we're using the pivot table is because it's very efficiently to get your percent frequency very quickly, really. So what you need to do is under the count of the rating, so one of your frequency, you can choose anyone. So I can choose this one of 7, and right click the mouse, and then you will choose show value as, and then you can choose the second option, percent of the grand total. See, instantly you will be able to get your percent frequency distribution if you compare this value with the method you used before. See that? The percent frequency. So this will manually calculated. If you're using the pivot table method, you can just convert your original frequency distribution to the percent frequency distribution without any calculation. So that's another reason we are using the pivot table method. So I teach you both method because I believe sometimes you prefer to use a count if, sometimes you prefer to use a pivot table, or you forgot the count if, but at least you still remember pivot table, or you forgot pivot table and you still remember the count if. So just give you more tool to help you to work more efficiently. So this is the second method I want to introduce, and hopefully it will be very helpful.